The whitetail season's been over for a little bit now. You know, we did okay. We got our 3 whitetail we were hoping for, which is gonna take care of us quite a bit for the year. But there's another problem going on in our area. Axis deer are not native to our region. And I think if I remember the story correctly, they were introduced by some kind of wildlife place or park or game, or maybe there's a wildlife ranch local to us that somehow, you know, they got out. That's the long story, or the short story of that, is they got out. And it started off in our region around Stonewall, Texas. Now, Stonewall has quite a few major farms in that area. They have a lot of them. What that led to is it was a perfect breeding ground. Now, historically, our region here in central Texas and in the hill country in particular, we have a really great whitetail deer population, and it's been fantastic for a long time until the Axis showed up. So part of what was happening was the Axis were pushing all of the whitetail out of the region, and Stonewall's not that far from me, and it's not far from outside of Fredericksburg. Hey, you want to say hi to the cows real quick? What you doing out there? It's old bent horn. So an Axis compared to a whitetail, they're significantly larger. So a Axis doe is the size of a very mature whitetail buck. That's their does. That's a normal doe. And from a distance, short of seeing the horns, you know, it can almost be hard to tell them apart. So just imagine their bucks are significantly larger than that. What that leads to is the only major predators we have are coyotes. And we don't have wolves, we don't have any of the things that what I understand are a Axis's natural predators in their actual habitat, which I think is in is Africa? I don't even know. What y'all doing? You gonna let me come through? Just hang on 1 minute. So something that's real common around us is the deer will get on all the fields. And the farmers, for the most part, they all taken that into account. They know that part of their crop is just gonna be consumed by the deer population. We have high-rise fences, we have all the stuff, but at the end of the day, you can only prevent it so far. Without them having a natural predator, because the whitetail get hunted by the coyotes, and there is a natural control of their population. We don't have that for the Axis. The Axis ended up overtaking that entire region to where there would be hundreds of Axis on a single field. The entire whitetail population just is completely uprooted because they're smaller, they have natural predators, and so they've got everything that going against them basically. They end up having to just get pushed out or move on just to survive. And that becomes really difficult. Why does any of this matter to today? Okay, the Axis have been pushing out of that Stonewall area and into other regions of our country. So specifically, I live about 30 minutes north of Stonewall to the northwest. I'm in a region that we're starting to have the Axis pushing on us and our fields too. It started off with just 1 or 2 would wander up here and start messing with all of our fields. And now we've got a herd of a dozen within just a couple of years' time, not even that. They went from you rarely ever see them to now you see them all the time. And that herd is just continuing to do its thing. That's what today is. Today, we have Axis that have pushed in on one of our fields. We had one of the owner's cousins come out and get 1 Axis already, because they don't have a season. They're not considered a native animal. They're not protected, and they shouldn't be, really. We have to, in order to protect our local resources, we need to hunt these things year round. Otherwise, they will do what they did in Stonewall, which was total devastation. I mean, it was rough from what everybody has explained to me. So this is a real problem just as a community that we're having to deal with. Armadillos are out today. What's up, buddy? So this is our field, and they've been coming up through this corner over here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get set up over here in this little berm down on the ground, Let's see if I can catch them as they come in. The wind is not favorable for me here. It's coming to my back and moving right where they're gonna be. So I'm probably not gonna get as close as I thought about getting to the edge, because they'll end up picking up my scent, and they're really skittish. So I'm gonna set up probably right here at a midpoint, see what that looks like. So I'm here about an hour before I actually expect them to come through. I got settled in. I've got a really good vantage point. There's no ants underneath me, thankfully. Granted, the bugs are just now starting to get moving around. Probably would be a much worse idea here in about another month. One day I'll have to tell you this story of an axis that Lisa got off this field, doing basically exactly what I'm doing now. And it was pretty intense. I'm pretty proud of her. She had a great shot. It's time to be quiet. We gotta watch. Shh. So I'm just gonna have a little fun right now. I don't know if you can. They're there. They've walked right up behind me. And there's a yearling walked right up next to me. I mean, I say next to me. He was maybe 20, 30 yards from me. And just sitting there looking at me, just so puzzled. What the heck is this thing? And he eventually recognized that I was, a possible threat, human, whatever. And he's been huffing and puffing. Now, out in the field, I'm surrounded by whitetail right now. Absolutely, there's some beautiful bucks. It's not whitetail season, so I can't do that. The axis have not come in, which is okay. I'll try again another night. They don't come in every night. But it's been beautiful to sit here and just watch them all kind of roam around. He's still over there huffing at me. Crazy little thing. Yeah, this thing's not even 1 year old. He's tiny. He doesn't have his spots. He does not have his spots, but his mama's wandering around with him. She looks real nice. Ooh, we got another one. Dang, they're still coming out of the woodwork. He's down here at the end of the fence line, just poking his head back and forth. I guess he hears me talking. He's another whitetail. He ain't big enough to be an axis. He ain't that old. Now that buck that's on the other side of the fence that you probably can't see right now, that joker is an 8 or 10 point and is gorgeous. But he's got a friend now. He's here. I don't know if you can see him. Man, I wish you could. Here, maybe you can see him now. He's poking his head back and forth in the fence, listening to me, looking at me. This turned into a fun experience. I've never had the whitetail so interactive like that before. It's kind of funny to watch them. So they're trying to check me out, but they don't want to run away, and nobody else is freaked out. It's what it is, it's the young ones. The young ones are the ones kind of freaking out. Most of the mature ones are just kind of sitting there, just, whatever. Well, it's too dark to really see through the scope at this point. I know the mirror, or the camera, it's got a pretty good sensor, so it looks a lot brighter than it is, I promise you. Anyway, so the axis they're a real problem here. It's something that we'll have to face over time. Honestly, I'm very curious to see just kind of how it evolves over the years. We are relatively new to this community. It's not something I've had much exposure to until I got here. So we've been here a couple of years now. And we plan to be here, permanently, long term. It's rough seeing the aftermath and knowing how bad it affected people in places like Stonewall. And so I really question, how is that gonna play into the rest of the region? And they had a really hard time getting that under control. And as far as I'm aware, they still don't. I've heard rumors that they actually pay people to come in and try to hunt or capture or do something with the axis to control the population, because they got so large and they had such a hard time keeping them out of their fields that it really legitimately started impacting the agriculture business. And it's to my knowledge, it still does to a degree. I think the craziest rumor, I don't know if it's true fact or not, but the craziest rumor was one field, they counted one time when they were doing the study on it, had like 500 axis on a single field. And there are places around us, not in my specific zone, but in areas not too far that, I mean, they're counting dozens of axis on a single field, which is a lot. You know, it's a lot of axis. It's a lot of animals that do not have a predator here, you know, which is a bad thing because there's no real, you know, control of them at that point. So just figured I'd bring you for the journey. I'll get one another night. I'll try again probably tomorrow evening. That's usually when they really get around and move, is about an hour, 30 minutes before sundown. And that's your best chance at getting something with them. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the story. Hope you enjoyed the chat, the conversation, hanging out, and playing with the little whitetail babies. That was kind of fun. I hadn't got to do that before. I'll see you later, Ray.